Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. I see Parakeet's already with us. Hey there, Parakeet. Oh, let's see. We have 5 kitties visible right now. Not clear where Sherbet is. Could be anywhere. But welcome, everyone. We are going to be continuing our game dev project today. Happily, Sherbet's not a pouncy cat, Parakeet. Beverage. Cough's been back today. Not a fan of that. Oh, but let's see here. How about use that camera? So yesterday, technically today, insomnia is a hell of a drug. I went through and I changed some of the nomenclature, but also some of the implementation of the damage system that we were using. I had been calling these harm messages and similar. These are health messages now. So these are health changes that they make, essentially. So 1 is increase it by 1. -1 would be decrease it by 1. This is a new variable. This is negation. And what negation is for is to say, reduce the change. So if negation of 1 is present, that will offset negative changes, but it will not cause the change to go positive. This effectively amounts to like shielding or armor, in that it doesn't actually increase your hit points, it prevents you from losing them. The reason that we've done that particular one at the moment, aside from being able to facilitate things like armor in the future, is to make it so that we have a clean way to handle bounce and collision triggers. Because now, instead of healing the projectile, it prevents the projectile from going away, is effectively what's happening here. So right now, I think it's still set. No, it's not set to bounce, because that would prevent us from seeing this. When it collides, it's going to start spiraling. Right now, it's set to home. The iron ball isn't going to be set to home, but it's homing right now. So on impact, they begin spiraling. And that neat. We can also do this. One thing we implemented last time as well is a turning radius on homing. That gives us another kind of dial to turn as far as homing quality. You can do speed of the projectile. You can do whether it tracks the target or if it just fires in the direction the target was initially. You can do whether it will reacquire a target once its target is gone. Does it keep going, essentially? Right now, I believe it is reacquiring. So when one loses a target, it'll try to get another one. Am I seeing oddities here? Oh, that's right. So one notable element here is that when a yarn ball splits for the purposes of this impact, it's not a fresh projectile. And that's kind of what we're going to be working on today, is projectiles that cause other projectiles to fire. Splitting is not the same thing. when you split, you create multiple copies of the same projectile. Which means if that projectile's life has already expended down to just about to go away, then the splits will also go away at the same time. They're not bound to each other so much as they are copies down to things like health and the state of various elements. If the projectile can only bounce once or can only pierce once, then it will all of its children will have the pierce expended if the parent has used it up. So this is the kind of behavior we've got. Now, what we want to do is add another projectile that instead of on collision split, we're going to say on collision fire that other projectile. That's going to require a couple of things, but let's start getting that in place. We'll open our folder here. I did forget to set notifications, so we won't be doing that because I don't want to stop. Data folder, entity, bullet yarn ball. Actually, no, we need the behaviors of the yarn ball. So, fixed. Hey there, Zell. Welcome. Oh, welcome. Okay, yarn ball. It's going to move at a fixed enemy. We are going to change bounce to only bounce once. We'll do the same for pierce. Just get it directly. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Bounce and pierce are set up to only fire once. So we'll take the yarn ball and we'll do the bounce like we want it to, ultimately want it to. So yarn ball lives for the standard bullet lifespan. It has 1 hit point. That means it can hit one thing before it goes away. On impact, it will do 1 point of damage to what it impacted, and it will do 1 point of damage to itself. That facilitates the combination of health 1 and harm self 1 is if you hit a thing, go away. Then this is the aim at an enemy and move in a straight line. It does not track. And then when you hit an enemy, bounce once. So we can demonstrate that real quick. I believe I've properly got this set. The yarn ball will not reacquire. Yes. So once the yarn ball's target is gone, it will just keep going in whatever direction it was going. This yarn ball persisted. It should not have persisted. Yeah, I kept going. Something is not right. Let's see. Health. Because change negation is not removed. Yes, we are getting the bounce properly. We get all the way down here. We will remove negation here. There we go. Technically, this kind of stuff should be in the player as well, but that will come later anyway. We don't want to do that. So we're going to demonstrate one of the things that this does. So the yarn ball has bounce and a collision trigger on it. So we're going to see... Wait for a yarn ball to hit here. There we go. So what we're going to see is a yarn ball can bounce once, and then the next time it hits, it splits into 3. That's because the bounce eats the collision. It marks it as handled and consumes the damage that the yarn ball deals to itself as well. Which means that now, since we passed the bounce by the first hit, we can reach the collision gate. On that hit, the collision gate fires, it consumes the impact, and now that gate opens, so the split into 3 happens. We will eventually get a target closest, which will be classically necessary. But this is more or less how the yarn ball is going to work for now. There is some more complex behavior I'd like to get into things like the yarn ball. In particular, I want it to be a bouncing weapon. Not just that it bounces off, I mean, but that it could go into the air and come back down repeatedly. You know, kind of a rubber ball kind of scenario. That's complicated in a variety of ways, both in implementation and in animation. To get that, we need to go from fixed animations like the yarn ball and the blob are using, and instead shift towards much more state-based. Because right now we only have moving and holding still, with some directional elements. But to get things like it's flying through the air, we would need to have stuff like it's moving, it's rising, it's at the apex of flight, like it's as high as it's getting, it's falling, it's landing, that kind of thing. This is not outside of the system that we have implemented, but it increases the complexity of handling the movement of things. And that's setting aside the fact that we don't have an axis for that implemented. We don't have the idea of height. Okay. So we have collision triggers. We need to set up the homing mouse. Textures is another thing that I'm going to need to work on. Data, textures, bullets. Okay, so we have bullet wind up mouse already. There it is. We're currently using that in part for the icon for the gates. We are also going to need to make a whole lot of I need to rename these. No, they're textures. We can leave that alone for now. Textures are segregated from the behaviors and what have you. Hey, bud. Sherbet has come to join me. He is still very skittish, but much less than he used to be. He doesn't get angry if you do something wrong like Sammy will. He'll just run off in general. Sammy will give you corrective nips if you do it wrong. Okay, so we have wind up mouse, which means we need to go in. We have bullet yarn ball. We're going to duplicate that. Call you wind up mouse. Let's duplicate this folder so we can get to our textures so that we can remember what we're calling things. Wind up mouse. Okay. Huh? Eh. Wind up mouse. And now we need a behavior group for it. We will duplicate the yarn ball. Same. Move 2. Okay, now we need an item for it. You are getting to see the more of the file structure that we have in place. I don't have the system for like installation or extraction set up, but this is how modability is going to work. In that you effectively load the base and then start loading mods over top of the base. Whether that adds a new file or it replaces an existing file, it allows you to swap things out. Now, I also need to set up proper error handling in it such that it just doesn't fully load that file. It actually kind of does that, but if it's fatal enough, it won't work. Entity, the entity is bullet. Wind up mouse. Icon. Wind up mouse. Oh, no. Right there. Okay, we need a spawner for it. Mouse. So this is one of the things that we're going to be overriding as part of this process is the spawn point will be changed to wherever it happens to be. Within reason. But this is going to be one of the tricky points we'll be dealing with here. Okay, we have spawner items. Go in data, players, Nyanite. We're going to say item, wind up, mouse. Okay, did I get all the pieces? Yes. But one of them is wrong, I should say. Item, wind up, mouse. Bullet, wind up, mouse. Try that again. Missed a couple of bits there. So we have the wind-up mouse. They're both firing at once. We should be able to see a noticeable difference in behavior here. The mice home and get one hit before they go away. The arm ball fires in a straight line but can bounce. And we can make them behave differently if we want. So triple wind-up mice, spiraling yarn ball. Bouncing doesn't work how I'd want it for spiraling still, but such is life at the moment. Okay, so we have 2 weapons now. The next thing we want to do, this isn't the weapon, it just happens to use the same icon. We don't have a lot of icons built yet. The next thing we want to do is make something that on impact fires the second weapon. The gimmick that we're going to try to do here is that if this one is if the leftmost one, I thought I had that set up to do that. Oh well. If an upper one, so let's say the yarn ball triggers another projectile within its logic, then it will grab the next one and use that. If the weapon is set up to do that, the second one will not fire by itself. It will only fire if this one is there. Sorry, it will only fire based on the trigger. So I could have it set up such that, okay, every yarn ball splits into 3, and on impact, it emits a homing mouse. Well, that means the homing mouse will not be firing once a second. Instead, the homing mouse will fire when a yarn ball runs into something. This could be good or bad. One of the things that it will create is an increased risk of multiplicity here. Right, Tass. It should be where that second bullet was. At the moment, that won't be the case unless I set it up right. But we'll see. One of the things I was thinking about in the middle of the night yesterday, woke up with an idea, is that instead of individual squares, power-ups would be like Tetris shapes, such that some of the effects would cover multiple lines at once, creating impact in like subsequent rows, or consuming lots of squares in a single row, that kind of thing, so that it limits where you can put it, and it might have a large consumption either in that weapon or in some other weapon. This could be used as things like, hey, the destruction trigger, the thing that would cause the split to happen, has to happen sometime to the left because it is an L shape that jumps up to the left, which would limit the number of things that you could effectively have in this row, because there would be a destruction event in here that would remove the first projectile. And it would also limit the amount of space that you would have in the subsequent row. Or similar, that kind of thing. We'll see if we get there, but for the time being, single squares. Okay, so we need to look at our inventory logic. We're going to do an interim commit here because I had to fix a couple things. Deselect everything. do. Add the wind up mouse. Okay. There we go. So let's look at our inventory. Close all the tabs for now. There are two inventories. There's the visual inventory and the, like, functional inventory. So this is where we end up building... this is where we end up building the actual weapons. So when we are loading things, this is when we build out what the entities will actually look like. This is where we're going to determine what it will look like. What the thing that would be emitted is. So right now, we go from 0 to the end. To get this to work, we're going to go most likely from the end back to 0. We're going to build the subsequent weapons before we build the earlier ones. Which, in order to facilitate what we're up to, each time we find a weapon that has and now spawn a weapon, we're going to look at the next weapon in line and we're going to consume that one. Effectively, we'll rip the spawner apart and pull the entity out of it and load that into the trigger. This will mean that there needs to be a special type that we can identify here. A type of behavior that is a weapon trigger, for lack of a better term here. Yeah, so we get the leftmost and we say, okay, we're going to make a spawner item from the one that is in the inventory row here, the leftmost piece. That spawner item, let's open that up. Spawner items have, like, how many to spawn, how frequently, that kind of thing, when to start spawning, when to stop. I think we set it up so if the end time is position, I'm processing here. I'm trying to remember. Spawner item. Yeah, okay. Spawn. So we iterate over them. We call spawn on them. It's in world state, I believe. We go through, we update. This is where we add them, we remove them. I want to look at that spawner. End time of 0. Okay, that's why. The player one doesn't care about the end time. This is the monster one. If it's a weapon, it just constantly spawns it. It doesn't care whether it should start or not. It does still care about the frequency, but not the whether the end time is present. Okay, but anyway. So as we're iterating over them, we are adding the inventory items. And we need to have a check that says, is this a spawn a weapon type? If it's a spawn a weapon type, we're going to look at a subsequent behavior and pull that in. All right, let's see here. We get the inventory item, get the behavior out of it, at that behavior. Quite a bit since I've looked through this, so I've got to kind of re-parse it. Need to find where I'm using the gates here. This is all prepping what the spawner will be, more or less. So we create that chain. And we're going to create spawners out of this. Let's see. Did we put that in player state? Oh, that's entirely player health tracking and what have you. Okay. Am I using player position? I'm not. This is I'm not really using these anymore. Okay, this is where we get our entity. We copy the entity and we call build behaviors. All right, this has introduced a wrinkle here. Effectively, we need a way to indicate that a subsequent weapon is disabled. And we need a way to get the entity into build behaviors here. So when we are building the spawners, we are setting up, here are all of the behaviors that we're getting out of this. We extract the behavior, we copy it, we load this behavior into the spawner item. Repeat, repeat, repeat. But we need a mechanism for a behavior to get extra information that it might need from the world state. That behavior doesn't know that it's for a spawner. It doesn't know where in the inventory that spawner might be. Oh dear. Because we could just have even if we had an explicit item that said spawn 1, like spawn row 3 or something like that, we still need to be able to get that and know that particular row is disabled as soon as that behavior is part of a weapon. It can't wait until that fires for the first time. So how we do? This is the goal for today, folks, is to try to figure out how we're going to do this. And then and then actually implement it. So one possibility would be to have the spawner feed information to its behaviors, and those behaviors would then be able to radiate it down. But that presupposes information that the behaviors might not need. We could have a special message that we feed to each behavior when we create it to say, you can, this is the thing talking to you. This is your spawner item. And have that spawner understand that it's supposed to get the next the next item. So we could set up a message here and pass it to the behavior that you are part of this spawner item. And that spawner item, it has, is row this. So this is only in inventory. So it could be a, initialize inventory behavior message. That message would radiate down into that particular behavior, and that behavior would have an opportunity to then query the player inventory and say, give me make me into a spawner, give me weapon 2 and disable it, kind of thing. So we could have a public method that you could call to say, I don't know what we'd call this, what it would be named, but that method would return the entity that a given spawner creates, and then disable that row. So that spawner would no longer fire, and the entity would then be handed off to the particular behavior. So something like something like that. And we would have a if then if it's a valid weapon number. Let's just make this an actual thing. To return is equal to null. To return. So we get the xth one. Item.entity. This is where things can get a bit flaky. Ocean Shop minigame. Would that be? Minigames in general are something that I think we should have in there. Longer term thing, but something to do, you know, instead of just a, you know, there's an animation and, hey, you get to choose these three. Having something that you do that can influence it, you know. More direct engagement. Okay, so we're just iterating over it and we're adding spawner items. We don't need to worry about removing one during this. There could be some nuance in this. If we have a frequency of 0, we could add logic here that says a frequency of 0 never happens. Okay. There is wasted behavior here because we're going to call spawn on this. But for the time being, there we go. So this disables that particular spawner item as soon as this happens. That is, it will cease to spawn. It is definitely possible for you to get a chain of behaviors that will do nothing, as in they will grab weapons that either don't exist because I've done it wrong. But if I do it right, this will always grab one that exists. Equal to 0 and border cases. So we know there should be a spawner item here. If there isn't, you're getting nothing. Okay, now we need a message for that. Let's see. Did not find new element in the hierarchy for this item. Why is this a pop-up? What it reads to me is, you're adding a new thing. I don't know why. Okay, whatever. Delta doesn't take delta. What does it have? Spawner item message is kind of vague. Kind of too vague. Okay, no, this is a weapon, initialized weapon message. Wordy, but still. there we go. It sends a weapon number in. We are going to request weapon number +1 be retrieved when we get this in the particular kind of behavior that we're about to make. So we go into our base inventory, and we create this behavior, and we're going to add it. We're going to say behavior dot handle message. Are we doing it this way? It's roundabout, but I don't want behaviors to assume that they are weapons, that they are part of a weapon that needs initialization. Is I entity this is the entity that is emitting the message. Is no entity emitting this message. Do I like that? Well, much? Not really. So +1, I is greater than or equal to 0, I minus minus. So we are now going in reverse order, trying to build them there. This is relevant because we won't be able to get a spawner item unless a subsequent one has already been built. So now we need a behavior type here. It's not a collision type. It's... So these are things that happen when a collision occurs. So these are either message receivers or message senders. These are behavior messages. These are things that move an entity. These are things that duplicate an entity, or that create more entities. So we could have a special group for this, but ultimately this is a very particular effect, and that is spawn a entity here. We could have various elements to it, a frequency, we could have it be destructive, as in the how. In that way, it is not a terminology is something that's easy to get hung up on when you're coding, especially when you're doing something object-wise. You want the terminology to be intuitive. Like, looking at this now, I don't like that these are all thing message. They should be message thing. Will I change that right now? I'm going to resist doing that. Kill collision target is an anachronism. We don't use that no more. Thinky. So, type names, like class names, always have to be unique. For now, it's going to be a multiplier. We're deciding on that. Might be able to narrow this down further, but JSON constructor there. So by default, you don't have to do this. By default, you don't have to do this. This is not a property. It's not a getter setter. Does not have a getter setter. So by default, unless you change it, JSON will not try to read this in or write this out. But you can actually change the JSON logic to look for everything, even if it's not a property. So I'm explicitly setting this just in case I screw it up down the road. As I am wont to do. If copy is multiplier spawn weapon entity, this is .catalog.copy Technically, it can assume this based on that, but we're being explicit about it. So if you duplicate it, it uses the same entity. Oh, no, that's not right. This needs to be public. We're still ignoring it. It's not something that would be saved. That's not true. Oh. No, that is true. It's just misreading it. Let's trim that down a little bit. Okay, we'll try to copy what it is. Would this ever be duplicated this way? Would it cause problems? Base catalog. Here, we're looking for copy. Okay, then it's fine. I just had to make sure we had a null case set up in this. If it's null, we will get null, which works for this. Why is that relevant? Because if we duplicate this thing, we want the same entity that the source, that the kind of parent object, the one we are copying, has. But if we're retrieving this from the catalog, this will be nothing. Public override. Handle message. We should be fine. If once again, this is why even when you're just using it for IntelliSense, most predictive algorithms are kind of bad for coding. Why would this be the case? I don't do this anywhere else. That's not really how this works. It's why when you hear things like knows and thinks and hallucinates and whatnot for large language model, predictive algorithms, that kind of thing, whatever they're calling the current era of AI, they are lying to you. They are feeding you a line because it doesn't know, it doesn't think. It is a predictive algorithm. Given the data that I have, what is the most likely follow-up to that? With some cheats welded on to do things like math and spelling and the like. There was a period where notoriously you could fool AI programs by asking them, like, how many R's are in strawberry? And they would always give the wrong answer. Or a majority of the time it would give the wrong answer because it doesn't see strawberry as a word that you can spell. It sees the request that you have as a series of tokens that it will translate. Yes. Which means that when it's looking at strawberry, it sees a token ID. When it's looking at how many R's, it is a series of tokens. That isn't a word to spell. So instead, what they often do to avoid that sort of problem is they have detection algorithms in place to say, oh, you're asking me to do math. I will tokenize that as a math problem, feed that into a calculator, and have that calculator spit out the result that it will then insert into the response. Can it still be messed up? Yes. But it's harder. But that is another indicator that it's just an algorithm. It's not a brain. It's not a person. Do not anthropomorphize your algorithms. Will I occasionally do that? It wants, it thinks, that kind of thing? Yes. But just, it is a mental state to avoid when you are designing things. Your algorithm doesn't think, it does what you've written. Okay, if message is weapon initialize message, this is going to give us the weapon number. So services entity is equal to services dot, it's not player state, it's the player inventory. Or do I have that? Or is that hiding? When we are loading the player, at some point we have to feed that into the player inventory. Where are we doing this? At the child, we load the player in the player state. I try to mention AI things like that on the regular because we continue to see increased hype around things like, oh, computers are going to be able to write code for you. And that's a lie. The most recent one is very shortly, AI will be able to do 90% of the coding for people. And pretty much released at the same time were statements from companies saying, yeah, on a weekly basis, they have outages caused by AI generated code. And the answer to that is often, well, you need to have humans peer review the AI's code. So, in order to use AI code generation, I need to have programmers dedicated to reviewing every line of code that the AI generates to make sure it does what they told it to generate. Which, if you have ever done code peer review before, is as complicated, if not more complicated, than writing the code yourself. Exactly, Lunar. If you create truly sentient AI that is people, then you've got an ethical concern, and that's how you get Skynet. Okay, we load the player. We get that entity. We feed it information based on the player's loadout. But the inventory, that should be in the catalog, or I'm sorry, the startup resources. Services inventory. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Inventory dot. What did I call that? Convert weapon to entity. There we go. Okay, no, I need to move that into the actual inventory. It doesn't have one of those. It will in a moment. Click virtual. Wow, that's all the wrong letters. Default, it just returns nothing. Services.inventory.convert weapon to entity. Initialize message dot weapon number +1. Okay. So, when a spawn weapon entity gets this message, I already can see what we're going to do differently here. It's going to get whatever the next weapon is. It's saying you are part of weapon, 1. So it's going to say, give me the entity for weapon 2. Nullify the spawner for weapon 2 and give me this entity. We are going to have child objects of this that handle other messages. And they will call into the base of it. Just for verification. Okay, yeah. So for spawn weapon entity, there are going to be child objects that also handle message, that are going to look for other types of message. Oh, but that won't work right. So effectively, I don't want to have to do this over and over. Protected. Void. Initialize message, initialize message. We call handle message on it. We can just explicitly call base. But that feels like a failure surface there. Nope, we'll call base. Is it ideal? No. But each of the children will have an extra thing that it does here. So this is a spawn weapon entity. So the reason that these are going to be special. Let's rename you. You gotta. All right. So the difficulty with this is this now branches into other types. That is, this can branch into a timer. This can branch into a collision. But there's nothing special about that. There's still going to be multipliers. So we are going to copy, paste. Comma message. All right, well. Do I like having to do it that way? No. but we have to for the time being. Okay, if message I hit the build button accidentally. Okay. Got the collision message. If it's a collision, then consume message is equal to true. Wait. Entity not equal null end. This dot multiplier weapon entity okay, still can't do that. All right, that's fine. Okay, if there's an entity and it's a collision message, we will consume at that point. Otherwise, we won't. Services.entity manager dot remove entity. See if we are doing this right, but we're getting there. We're removing our existing entity. We are creating a new one. New entity.position is equal to entity.position. This is going to require some fiddling here. There is a, if it would normally spawn on the player, but for the time being, I'm going to say if it's a collision-based one, it will always spawn at the point of impact. Okay. Just in case we need to copy something. All right, what this says is if I get a message, first I'm going to verify that the base object handles it also can handle the message. This is to cover the initialize case. We aren't going to consume the initialize case because other behaviors might need it. So this never consumes the message. We don't care if it consumes the message. There's some prior knowledge going on here that I don't like. But it is what it is. You know what? Because I don't like that prior knowledge, we'll do that. Currently, this will always be false. Not consume message end. If we consume the message, then there's no reason to check further. So we need a message. Yeah, okay. This is... it's needless. That is an optimization. It's a very small optimization. Because this will be false if this would consume the message. Actually, no. No, we're going to keep that. We're keeping that. Because we aren't assuming what this does. We are not assuming what it does. If it eats the message, we do not assume that we can still parse it because it, is it a collision message? If this ate that collision message, we don't want to try to parse it. Okay, but what this is doing is saying, if I get a collision, consume the entity that we have. Consume the entity we have that is triggering the message. And then spawn the projectile. Okay. So we need to create a behavior that is one of these. All right. Behaviors, multipliers. We are going to duplicate you for now. Very wordy, but it is what it is. Collision, weapon, entity. And there we go. All right, we now have a behavior for multiplier collision weapon entity. Now we are going to put that directly in the yarn ball for now. Behaviors, groups, group yarn ball. So instead of bounce, it is going to have tab, data, behaviors, multipliers, collision weapon entity. And it will totally work now. It didn't. is wrong. Oh, comma. Okay, not working fully yet. This should have been disabled. So we are going to go into our code here. And base inventory, we're going to look for this to happen first. Okay, that is not being called. That is not being called. How is that never being called? They're being spawned. We add one, we rebuild it. Whenever we drag and drop, we rebuild it. Okay, this one should have an item now. Oh no, that should have gotten an inventory item. Oh no, we're adding them right now. And one. Okay. Jump to you whenever we actually have an inventory item. Each column. Ah, okay. This is not where it needs to happen. That is really unfortunate, actually. Okay. This does not address the actual items messages. This is where we duplicate the entity. Initialize, we set the behaviors. This is making sure we have actually created the entity. It's at this point that we should tell the entity we should give it a message to handle. There's only one kind of spawner item in there. Yeah. We could have a handle message for spawner items. But we're only going to do that once. That is correct, Lunar. We could have well, we would need a variation on our current one that isn't going to use it would need to have a definition that included a explicit entity. So instead of it saying, give me the prior weapon, or the next weapon, it would say, upon being loaded, it would say split into slimes. Or it would say split into 2 of the existing one. And then disable itself. So that when itself was copied, when the source entity was copied, when it copied that behavior would already be expended. Or would have some part of it expended. You know? But possible. Absolutely possible. How we do this. Duplicate the entity. So initialize is there because we have 2 different creation moments. We have an existing one and a copy constructor here. This initialize is part of the default. As in, we don't know what the entity is yet. If we give it a message, we can relay it down through the behaviors. Because by the time we have something to handle messages, we have all of the pieces that we need for the entity to work. And it's in the case of the base one that we need to worry about first spawn preparation. So this is where we are creating a copy of it. So instead, I could set the entity, or I'm sorry, I set the entity to this, and then I do first spawn preparation, where it duplicates the entity. This ensures that we have a fully clean one. But we should not need to do this. Because anytime this is set, it should be a clean one. We do this here because we are copying. But we don't need to do that here because we should already have a copy. And I can't do the build in the set because I'm not guaranteed to have this yet. So we want this to happen after initialization. So I think we do need a public void handle message. Don't know that I like that it's a behavior message. So at this point, this is ugly, but we're doing it this way. We haven't prepared the entity yet. We do first spawn preparation. Okay, so now, after we have done this, we can send in a message to the entity that is the weapon initialize message. All of its behaviors will get that message. Okay. So it is not this. All right. Drop, build template, convert. Do we ever get here? We do. Okay. Oh. Oopsie doopsie. Yes. At that moment, it will be empty when we get it. All right, this isn't correct, but we are getting there. All right, what's going wrong here? Okay, spawner item. Entity is yarn ball. Okay, the yarn ball is happening after. The yarn ball is the first one. Sorry, the yarn ball is happening later in the chain. It's I0 then. Okay, we're adding the yarn ball first. Now it's wind up mouse and yarn ball. So if we step into that, a time passed message. Step into the base behavior, which at this point is a behavior group. Makes sense. We are now in a timer lifespan. Then a collision health. Change target health. Again, our message is a weapon initialized. None of these care about it yet. Change your own health. That is an on impact. Move in straight line. Also doesn't care. Okay, this is the one that cares. Okay, it is weapon number 0. It should be looking for weapon number +1. Look at spawner items. There are 2. Oh. Oops. Let me show you my error. See how it says add here? Doesn't matter that we're going in reverse order. Oh, I'm sorry. It's because we're going in reverse order, we've just made it so that the order is still wrong. That is, the one that we want will be misplaced. Insert. Ideally, we'd have something nice and clean like push. Going to insert at 0. Okay, yarn ball heading out. Okay. Entity is another yarn ball. Oh, no. It is not that entity, it is entity. Don't clone yourself. Clone the one that you're supposed to clone. Clone it at the entity's position. This still is probably not going to work. I think there's an iframe problem. I need to look at the multiplier to make sure I'm getting that right. Yeah. Entity is a wind-up mouse. In the world. Oh, okay. Next flaw found. We are removing the prior entity. That's working. You see how this entity never comes into existence, though? We're not telling the entity manager to add it. Thus is programming. Once more. Yep, look at that. Okay, further experimentation. Is working. Every yarn ball that hits splits into 3 mice. Again, this can make the multiplicative problem that much worse. Because you have more space. You have way more space to cause problems in. We'll make you faster. We'll make you move in a wave pattern. We're going to make you zigzag. Spiral. And you will spiral in. Okay. Yeah, we're making progress. All right, so this is a on impact create the entity. Next, we're going to do a time passed. Well, first. Oh, well, we can't do that just yet. But everything still follows the same rules. Oh, that's right. This is an impact gate. It is not the timer gate. It is an impact gate. So we have incredibly layered behaviors now. Can make things really interesting with this kind of stuff. One thing that that I want to do is I found a video that I need to look at again if I want to do this. But right now you can see I've got an outline. It is a very dark purple that outlines all of the sprites. But that necessitates that I spend space on the sprite to do it. Now, I don't want my sprites to ever run right up to the edge of their template. But I also don't want to spend an entire pixel on their outline. There are tricks you can do with a shader to essentially create that outline on the fly. So I could insert that into the rendering shader to add an outline during the processing that is just one pixel. Like one screen pixel. Which would make it flexible for no matter what size I do, it's one screen pixel. Nice. Okay. Let's do an interim save here. We aren't saving group yarn ball because that's testing. So next, it's going to do a lot of the same thing here. Instead of on collision, we are going to do a periodic one that says every so often emit one of these projectiles. This is kind of the Noida LARPA effect, where it fires the projectiles as the projectile moves. So we are going to take this same one. Periodic weapon entity. Oh, we'll change this in a moment. What do we call this? Frequency. Bubble. Okay. I'm past message. Did double. It's on ignore. Okay, so we have time passed. 0. When if it's time passed message plus equals time passed message delta. You can also call this accumulated delta. Time passed is good enough. If This will never consume the message by itself. This is just time passing. Copy the entity, we spawn where it is. Okay. Back into our folder. Periodic. Frequency 1. This will cause problems. This will cause problems very quickly. We're gonna do it anyway. We do not remove the entity. Okay, that's not right, but hey, neat. I mean, it's still going to work how we want it to. So for those of you just joining to see the madness that is happening right now, what is happening at the moment is that a wind-up mouse is being spawned ridiculously fast. Like per frame from every yarn ball that is being spawned once a second. That's not what it's supposed to do, but it's happening. It looks kind of neat, but hey, look at that. We're spawning, we have just short of 6,000 things in existence at all times, and we're still getting 7 whole frames a second. The performance improvements are working. Time passed message. We add the delta. Why is it happening constantly, though? Because it should be lowering it by frequency each time. It's just for a quick test. Is spawning them like crazy. Oh. Frequency is equal to frequency was 0. Let's And frequency. We're going to put an extra baffle in here. There must be a frequency above 0. If frequency is 0, do not spawn. Because we were not copying, frequency was 0, which meant every physics frame about 60 times a second, we were spawning a mouse. That was wrong. Boop. Boop. I mean, we can still recreate that by doing things like this. Once a second, every yarn ball emits 3 rotating mice that home in on targets. The yarn balls spin in place as they're going. Or rotate as they're going in little loop-de-loops. If a yarn ball collides with something, it splits into 3. If a mouse collides with something, it moves faster. And more yarn balls. So this is why I was thinking of having these be Tetris shaped, such that it inhibits the ability to get the multiplication too far out of control. Because if, let's say I had 4 weapons, that would give me all of this space to cause extra replication. It's okay to get out of control, but it shouldn't be too easy to get out of control. We want out of control to be cool and unique as opposed to constant. It is. I got parts and I used them well, and so I got to, break the game over my knee. That's what we're going for. As opposed to, I just got some parts and made things multiply. And if we control the frequency more, then we'll get more results out of this. Because that's the other vector, is it wouldn't necessarily have to spawn once a second. It could be once every 2 or 3 seconds it emits another bullet, which still allows the multiplication and the progress to make a big difference. Yeah. Okay, so we have every so often. We have on impact. What else? What else? So one thing we need is an explosion. We need a projectile that lives a short period of time and has all kinds of health. Like, it can only live for a couple of frames kind of thing. Oh, okay. Yeah, we could have the equivalent of the collision trigger, but it's once it reaches a particular period of time. Like a timed explosive kind of thing. Okay. Okay, so that's going to be very, very similar to periodic. So we'll copy periodic, and we're going to call you timed. Most of the code can indeed be copied. This ultimately doesn't matter because once the time has passed, we are going to move entity. Ooh, interesting. So the trick right now is that piercing consumes the message. But we could have a flag for piercing to not consume the message. That is, if it bounces, if it pierces, allow it to continue. Alternately, I could have the collision one say whether it negates or not when it hits. But right now, what piercing and bouncing do is they say, if I run into something, then I will consume that collision and I will change the behavior. So it will either change direction or it will punch through. If we add flags to piercing, bouncing, and the collision one to say whether they consume and whether they negate or not. So for piercing and bouncing, it's do they consume the message? Do they allow a collision to go past them? This is relevant not because you would do that independently. Like piercing by itself would never do that. If I had something that says, let this projectile pierce, that would be independent, and that pierce would have to be expended before subsequent things could happen. But we could also set it so that the pierce is a precursor. Like, the power-up itself is a group that has a pierce that doesn't consume the message, followed by a collision weapon entity that negates damage. This is true by default, but we're going to allow it. We're going to leave it that way, I should say. That. That's what negate does. Is effectively it negates what it removes 1 point of damage from the current stack, or any number of points, or it removes 1 point of healing, whichever way you're going with it. It converges damage towards 0. So if we negate damage, now what should this be? No, this should be persist. Does it persist? This doesn't care about damage. If not persist, then we remove it. Otherwise, it just continues. If we don't persist, we consume the message. If we do persist, we allow the message to continue. All right. And then we can go into the collision weapon entity. This is going to be a bit of a hack when we do this, but unfortunately, Chaos, no, I do not recall. But that might just be my memory acting up, as it is wont to do. So we are going to put a pierce after that, because this won't consume this doesn't consume the message if we put persist on it. Sure that I got this right. Yes, okay. Oh, no, wait. Collision weapon. Okay. Okay, when a yarn ball hits, it should pass through and emit a mouse. Yep. So what I would want to do is have in the item group a collision weapon spawn with persistence with a pierce immediately following it. A pierce of the relevant type. We are working on our game, Chaos. Working on our game right now. We are working on events that cause this weapon, instead of emitting by itself, will only be triggered by the behavior of the yarn ball. That is, if the yarn ball is present in a slot above it, then the mouse will not trigger, and instead is triggered by what the yarn ball tells it to. In this case, if a yarn ball hits something, it continues moving through one additional target, and every target that it hits should emit a mouse. Yep. So each yarn ball can emit 2 mice. There is some room for multi-collision happening, but it shouldn't be frequent. That's kind of a fine-tuning thing, though. Remove this and fork that out. The yarn ball isn't terribly accurate at hitting anything, but the mice are. And each yarn ball's impact emits a whole bunch of mice. Would be more accurate in the yarn ball to say bounce. Now, the default behavior of the yarn ball is to bounce first, which would mean the first hit would not emit mice, and I'll show you that in a moment here. We'll add a bunch of them so that you can really see it. So 1, no mice are happening right now. But the yarn ball will bounce on impact first. Oh, and it did not work. The bounce should have eaten that collision. Why did it not eat the collision? Oh. Because I didn't make it eat the collision. It will properly demonstrate what I was just saying. So this is bouncing before the collision. Keeping in mind that a bounce by default consumes a collision. So it does damage, redirects. It has to hit a second time before the mouse effect triggers. Right there. So if we reduce this down, so that we get more slimes coming here, you are more likely to see the effect. But this shows you some of the differences in behaviors. There has been a lot happening, Chaos, a lot happening. We have things like, we have player health, we have a map being generated, that we've got all of these new triggers and messages in place. All kinds of good stuff. But so what this bouncing logic does, or what the collision logic is doing right now, makes it so that we can have it makes it so that there is a strong difference between the weapon's base behaviors and how they are impacted by subsequent add-ons. If the yarn ball's bounce is a consuming effect, then subsequent collision handlers will not fire until the bounce is completely done. But we could have the bounce not be a consuming effect, and instead allow one thing to pass through. Or X things to pass through. The reason that you might want one to be consumed is if I say pierce and then bounce, I do not want the pierce and the bounce to be consumed at the same time. Or at least the player would not want that. You'd want like one and then the other. And that's where consuming the event comes in. And that's why if I wanted to have it pierce through and create clones every time it pierced, that is where we would create a group that handles that. So the next thing we're going to do is create that group and show that. So I'm going to take this opportunity to take a quick break. We haven't done one yet. So I will be right back, folks. And beverage here at Sammy is laying there in a very uncommon spot for her. She is generally not a sprawl out on the floor cat. Pierce and bounce by their nature persist, but they might not consume the message. Persist the right term here, the right concept. Because there's nothing about the projectile continuing that says other collisions should happen. Because the impact in spawning of another thing No, I think that's true. I think this is still true. Okay, so if we go into bounce and pierce, we could have bounce and pierce be able to allow other events after them. But I think having bounce and pierce follow what we want them to do might be better. Okay, let's make... We need some visuals. Textures, icons. Where is that? Did I not keep the A sprite? Ah, there it is. So there's effectively a state in a message that says, should the message continue? If bounce or pierce say, if they consume the message, then nothing that follows it will get the collision. Bounce and pierce operate by doing a damage negate of 1. Technically, they could do it of like 1 billion, you know, just to ensure that it takes no damage at all. But the nature of projectiles is generally that negating 1 would be enough. That might change, you know. Oh, but we'll see. But if they consume the message, that means that the pierce happens, but say like a subsequent bounce would not happen. What would happen in that case is, say I can pierce 1 and bounce 1, and I put them in that order, pierce then bounce. What would happen then is that it would pass through the first target, bounce off the second target. If I put them in the other order, it would be bounce off the first target, and then pierce through the second target. if they did not consume the message and you had them that way, it would either bounce and then never pierce, or, well, it would look like it bounced and then never pierced. Because the pierce would say, effectively, ignore the damage from this and keep going. The bounce says, ignore the damage from this and glance off of the target based on the direction of movement compared to the target. If they did not consume the message, bounce would always win. If I had multiple consecutive pierces and they did not consume the message, only the pierce with the most pierces would matter. Which isn't the worst thing. But we'll see how this plays out. Like, that is a tuning thing. There we go. This was me attempting to figure out a way to indicate how they targeted in the like. Like a shorthand. Let's add... this will be fierce. That looks pretty pierced to me. Icon pierce. Hey. Need to... It'll do. All right, how to convey this? Be the icon for the next weapon. Could just do something like, a chevron essentially, you know, pointing down. We'll do that for now. Not ideal, but it'll do. Oh no, it won't be next weapon. This is one of the reasons that we want to have 32 by 32. Remove that. Oh, there we go. Like we should be using that one, but oh, it'll do. It'll do. One of the things I'm trying to avoid is color language on them. That is, you know, this color means this thing. There are color choices I can use, and in fact, the blues and purples that I use are pretty good for, are reasonable for color blindness of various types. At least they're distinguishable, but color language is still tricky. But this is definitely one of the places that I need more space for my icons. In theory, if we do kind of. We'll have to figure out, again, a consistent language for next weapon. Actually. Does it look like a big -1? Yes, it does. Still looks like a big -1, but Yeah, slightly better. One of the concepts that I was working with was the idea that these would eventually look like little circuits. And I think having something with the border to indicate that it's connected below to the bottom row might be a way to do it. This is, again, one of the places where a Tetris shape would be useful, saying that these two rows are bound together at this point. Nice and kind of a clear indicator that this pair in column indicate that these two rows are connected now. The icons are noticeably different from the other ones. We will address that. Yep. I could also, I could have little pieces between the cells that I could make show up if there is a connection. All right, we need text for these icons now. That's kind of what we're going for. It's not perfect. It'll have to do. For those curious, the text files define what the icon looks like and what its size is, and which PNG to use and where it is. Bounce. Bounce. Okay. So now we need to make some items. Okay, that's bounce. Oops. Is icon impact next weapon. Yeah. Bit of terminology drift there. Extra explosions, right? Oh, what do we call this one? Behavior multiplier. Collision weapon entity. Periodic. Let's make sure it runs. Okay. Now we need to go into our loadout. Move some of these spreads. Pierce. And bounce. Okay. You can see it's the wrong size. Okay, then we need group yarn ball. Not intrinsically next weapon on impact. Okay, it will bounce and then next weapon. No, that's periodic. There we go. Start again. Okay, so both emitting at once. Now, the mouse has ceased to go. So we can see it's bouncing. Hitboxes still need work. Yep. And now it emits mouse on impact. Then we can change it to this, which will have it happen much more often. We can pierce and then bounce. So the mice can move through one target, bounce off another target, before they go away. So they can take out a bunch of stuff. Again, shape language needs some work. I really do need to shift to 32 by 32. I actually had a testing sprite for the cat bot that was 32 by 32. I think I posted it somewhere on the Discord. I just haven't, implemented it yet. It will change a lot of the scaling. A 6 becomes a 3 in potentially many places. So I'd have to go find all of them. Replace that with a constant, that kind of stuff. Update all of the sprites. But that would give me a lot more room for messing with the visuals, and the icons in particular would benefit from that. As I would have, 4 times the space to play with, to do things like expand them right out to the edge, do that little circuit pattern, all kinds of stuff. Now, this one would do nothing on the mouse, because the next one does not actually exist. So let's put that here. Nice timing out. So right now the mice are just ending on impact because there is no next weapon. We haven't tried this. Okay, periodically emit them and emit them on impact. Does that work? Kind of hard to tell, actually. Oh, that's right. The yarn ball bounces, so we don't see the on impact as clearly. If we reverse the order of in the player loadout of yarn ball and mouse. So that we can see this. I do need to make it so you can move the weapons up and down. Okay, mouse is first. Mouse will periodically emit yarn balls, and it will emit a yarn ball on impact. Yep. Oh, I like this. I like this a lot. The mice are slowing down. That should be... Oh, that's random direction. That's why. Random direction can fight homing. Like, if we put random direction on the yarn ball, it will initially try to spawn and target an enemy that exists. It will aim at them and it will travel in that direction. Random direction will create a random direction and say, go that way. So we will see the yarn balls behave a little bit differently here. Because some of them are going to stay closer to where they spawn, some of them will move faster away from it. We'll see it better if we do this one. So like this one in the red is not moving very fast. It's kind of hanging out right where it started. Oh dear. Then let's see here. Okay, periodically emits yarn balls. Then after it strikes something, split into 3. Split into 3 and then start spiraling. And you get an extra bounce. Sorry, you'll get a bounce, then a pierce, then a bounce. It's kind of chaotic here. The mice have a move in a random direction modifier currently, which means that random direction can fight the homing behavior. Homing behavior will constantly rotate at about 45 degrees a second to face its target. But the starting direction of homing is always that random direction. It's pushing it that way. So it will try to rotate off of that, but it has trouble doing it. Read as a combination that you would never have. Similarly, if we put a wave pattern on the homing, it sometimes it homes better, sometimes it homes worse. That. Here we go. Blobs have pretty much no chance to appear. All right. I think that's gonna about do it for today. But first, let me check a couple of things just to be sure. Yeah, I think that'll about do it today. So let's see here. We now have the concept of next weapon fully realized. So we can chain one into the other, which gets us into kind of the territory that we want. The idea that I can have, well, this one's a homing shot, and I have one that kind of explodes at my feet periodically. Does damage all around me. But if I put the explosion second and then have a, next weapon on impact modifier, then it goes from being an explosion at my feet and a homing shot into a homing shot that explodes on impact. Or explodes periodically, or any number of other things. So we have options. Oh, we didn't have the timer-based one set yet. We'll get there. One of the things we might do next then is start looking at the sprite size. Get that in there because the iconography is going to be a problem pretty fast as we try to create them. I don't want to have to go back in after I have, 20 to 50 things and say, okay, now I need to do 32 by 32. Let's get that 32 by 32 in there sooner rather than later. And we'll go from there. But I hope everybody had fun. If you have any thoughts or suggestions or anything like that, drop them in the comments. But otherwise, if you like what you saw and would like to see more, remember to like, follow, subscribe, all of that stuff. It does help the channel grow. And brain suddenly stops. Completely derailed. Oh, but with all that in mind, I hope the rest of your day is good, and I'll see you next time.